When you close your eyes, the world you know with your senses fades, and another world opens, one shaped not by circumstance, but by the quiet inner power you have carried all your life. In that silent inner chamber, imagination becomes the sculptor of destiny. It is there in the unseen where the greatest technique for manifestation unfolds, the art of entering the scene of your desire and living inside it as though it were already true, not observing it, not wishing for it, but experiencing it in the first person with the fullness of your emotional being. Everything begins with a feeling. Before the shape of a dream forms, before the opportunity appears, before life rearranges itself, there is a subtle shift inside, an inner acceptance that this is now who I am. Imagination is the bridge between what is and what can be. When you step into the state of your desire through imagination, you are not pretending. You are selecting a new reality among infinite possibilities and giving it roots within your consciousness. To imagine effectively, you must understand that the mind listens to emotion more than it listens to words. A dry thought has no weight, but a thought felt deeply becomes magnetic. When you enter your imagined scene, let it be short, vivid, and repeat it until it feels natural. Picture not the process, not the steps, not the struggle, only the moment that implies your wish is fulfilled. Let it be simple: a hand you hold, a message you read, a key you turn, a room you enter, a conversation where someone congratulates you. A single moment that symbolizes the entire reality. Feel the texture of it. Hear the tone of the voices. Sense the temperature of the room. Smell the air. Move as though everything you desire is already settled, already yours, woven into the fabric of your life. The deeper the sensory experience, the faster it imprints upon your subconscious. And once the subconscious accepts it, the world has no choice but to yield. The most powerful technique is not complicated. It is gentle, quiet, and profoundly intimate, entering the mental scene at night, when your mind becomes receptive, and replaying it until it flows with the ease of memory. You do not force. You allow. You surrender into the feeling of fulfillment. You do not look at the scene, you live inside it, from the first-person perspective, as though it were happening now. Because in truth, imagination is not a place you visit. It is the realm from which your physical life is drawn. There is no power in wishing. Wishing places your desire far away, but imagining with conviction bends reality around you. When the inner experience becomes more real to you than the outer evidence, the outer world follows like a shadow. This technique does not ask you to fight, struggle, beg, or chase. It asks you to assume, to feel, to rest in the knowing that imagining the end is the beginning of its manifestation. Every change you seek already exists in potential form. Your task is not to create from nothing, but to claim what is already prepared for you in the unseen. When you discipline your imagination, you discover that life is responding to you in ways you once thought were coincidences, strokes of luck, or divine timing. But they are not accidents. They are reflections, echoes of the inner world you have chosen to inhabit. If you imagine conflict, lack, or delay, those too will find their way into your path. Not because life is harsh, but because imagination is creative, neutral, and obedient. It does not judge your request, it simply produces results. This is why mastering imagination is mastering life. To imagine with awareness is to hold the steering wheel of your destiny. Let your imagination become your sanctuary. Visit it each night as you lay between wakefulness and sleep, the borderland where the conscious mind grows quiet and the subconscious stands attentive. In that soft, drifting space, Choose the scene you wish to experience. Feel the joy of it. Feel the relief. Feel the naturalness. Then let sleep carry it deep into the foundation of your being. That is where transformation begins. Understand that once you have lived the scene internally, your only responsibility is to maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled throughout your day. You need not repeat the scene endlessly. You simply return to it when your mind wavers, not as an act of desperation, but as a gentle reminder of the truth you have claimed. Let the world do the rest. Let events unfold. Let people play the roles they must. The how is not your concern. The inner state is your only task. Your imagination is not daydreaming, it is creation. It is not fantasy, it is the blueprint of what will come. Every invention, every miracle, every breakthrough, every achievement began first in the unseen realm of imagination. Great lives are not built by chance, they are built by those who learn to inhabit the future before it arrived. When you imagine with conviction, you are not escaping reality, you are reshaping it. You are writing the script that the world will later perform. You are choosing the emotion that life will echo. And you are planting the seeds that must bear fruit, because the universe is compelled to bring forth the harvest of your inner state. So return to your imagination with reverence. Treat it as the sacred tool it is. Enter your scene nightly. Live inside it fully. Feel it as though you already possess what you desire. And know, truly know, that once imagined with emotion, your desire is already on its way. And you, through the quiet power of inner experience, are simply preparing the space to receive it. Oh, because the world is only an echo of the inner state you consistently occupy. When imagination becomes your dwelling place rather than a temporary escape, everything around you begins to move in harmony with the scene you have impressed upon yourself. Life itself reshapes to match the inner blueprint you have chosen. Most people imagine passively. They use the mind to replay memories, fears, and old patterns. They rehearse what they don't want, what they worry about, what they think is likely or logical. They imagine by habit, not by intention. And because imagination is always creating, always responding, they unknowingly manifest more of what they dislike. But when you become deliberate, when you use imagination as a tool instead of a mirror, you flip the laws of your inner world. You no longer react, you originate. The technique is simple, but its simplicity is its power. Select a moment that would naturally occur if your desire were already realized. Enter that moment in your imagination just as you would enter a room, fully, calmly, with all your senses awake. Play that short scene over and over until it feels as real as your physical life. When the imagined experience begins to carry the weight of truth, when your emotions respond as though it is happening now, you have crossed into the creative state that reshapes your destiny. It doesn't matter how impossible your desire seems. Imagination is not governed by logic or limitation. Within imagination, you are free from the boundaries of circumstance. You are not negotiating with your past, your resources, your surroundings, or your fears. You are writing the script of a new experience. The outer world will play its part later. For now, imagination is your stage, your direction, your authorship. And what you accept on that inner stage eventually becomes the world you walk through. To master manifestation with imagination, you must learn the art of inner surrender. This isn't the surrender of giving up. It is the surrender of trusting. Trusting that your inner world is the cause and the outer world is the effect. Trusting that the feeling of fulfillment is enough. trusting that once you have impressed the subconscious with a lived, felt, embodied scene, the wheels of creation begin turning in ways you cannot yet see. You don't have to figure out the how. The how is not your job. Your only job is to embody the end state so fully in imagination that it becomes second nature. Just as you know your name without effort, you must come to know your new reality without strain. When the inner state becomes familiar, the outer world simply catches up. You might imagine yourself receiving a phone call that changes everything. You might imagine standing in the home you desire, feeling your fingertips glide across the surface of a table you own in that future reality. You might imagine hearing someone say, "I'm proud of you," or "Congratulations," or "You did it." In your imagination, let it be as real as the memories you already hold. Your subconscious does not distinguish between a vividly imagined scene and an event physically lived. It accepts both as fact. And once accepted, life begins to express it. Some resist this technique because it feels too easy. They believe manifestation must be earned through hardship or struggle. But creation is not born from strain, it emerges from clarity. The seed does not struggle to become a tree. It simply contains the pattern of what it will become, and nature fulfills the rest. Your imaginative act is that seed. The scene you create is the blueprint. The feeling of fulfillment is the nourishment. The outer world is the soil that brings it forth. When you practice this technique consistently, you'll notice subtle shifts. You might catch yourself feeling differently without knowing why. You might sense opportunities beginning to align. You might feel drawn to act in ways that reflect your imagined reality. These are natural bridges that lead from the unseen to the seen. Do not force them. Simply follow them with calm confidence, knowing they arise from the state you have already assumed within. Let your imagination become a sanctuary, not merely a tool. Let it be the place you return to again and again, not just to escape life, but to shape it. Spend time there in the silence of night when the mind is most receptive. Drift into the scene as you fall asleep, carrying the feeling of fulfillment with you. This is the doorway through which your desires slip into the deeper layers of your mind, where they take root. It is not repetition alone that creates change. It is repetition with belief, repetition with emotional acceptance, repetition with the quiet conviction that what you imagine is already a living truth. Spend a few minutes each night in your scene. Do not strain, do not rush. Let the moment unfold naturally. You are not forcing imagination. You are entering it gently, the way you step into a warm room from the cold. In this state, you will find that the world within becomes brighter, more vivid, more persuasive than the world without. And when that happens, when your inner experience becomes more compelling than your outer circumstances, manifestation is inevitable. Imagination is the great equalizer. You may lack resources, connections, or favorable circumstances, but imagination bypasses all limitations. In imagination, you can be who you want to be, live where you want to live, love whom you want to love, achieve what you desire. You can rehearse victory before anyone else sees it. You can occupy the state of abundance without waiting for proof. And you can build the life you desire from the inside out. If you wish to manifest love, imagine the warmth of being cherished. Imagine the closeness, the quiet conversations, the simple gestures that express devotion. Let the feeling of being loved anchor itself in your heart, so that love becomes familiar to you even before it arrives physically. If you wish to manifest success, Imagine walking into a room with the confidence of someone who has already achieved it. Imagine the emails, the congratulations, the opportunities that flow toward you. Allow the feeling of accomplishment to wash over you until your posture, your tone, your thoughts all align with the version of you who has succeeded. If you wish to manifest abundance, imagine the ease of having your needs met. Imagine the freedom of choice, the comfort of financial security, the relief that comes with knowing you are supported. Let the feeling of abundance become so natural that scarcity no longer holds space in your mind. This imaginative practice does not deny reality, it transforms it. It teaches you that reality is malleable, responsive, fluid. What seems unchangeable shifts when the inner state shifts. What seems distant comes closer when you embody its presence within. What seems impossible becomes inevitable when you dare to claim it in imagination. The greatest transformations begin quietly in the stillness of your mind. You may not see immediate changes, but something profound is happening beneath the surface. Each time you imagine the fulfilled desire, you carve a deeper pathway in consciousness. You create the mold into which the future must pour itself. You soften the resistance that once held you back. You align with the frequency of fulfillment rather than longing. Some will say, but imagination isn't real. Yet everything you see was once imagined. Every invention, every relationship, every achievement, every building, every creation, each began as an idea, a vision, an unseen picture held firmly in someone's mind. Imagination is not a dreamscape, it is the origin of reality. When you understand this, you stop treating imagination as fantasy and start treating it as the workshop of creation. You no longer underestimate its power. You no longer doubt what is possible. You begin to work with imagination deliberately, boldly, intelligently. And as you do, you will discover that the world is far more responsive than you ever realized. It mirrors your inner state with astonishing accuracy. It rearranges people, events, and circumstances to match the feeling you have claimed. It bends in your favor when your inner conviction becomes unwavering. This is the essence of manifestation with imagination. Not forcing, not begging, not waiting, not hoping, but feeling, embodying, accepting, and living the truth of your desire before it appears. When you master this, you stop being a passenger in your life and become the author of it. You no longer drift, you direct. You no longer wish, you choose. Continue imagining the end with calm confidence. Continue living the scene in your mind as though it is happening now. Continue trusting that your inner world is powerful enough to shape your outer world. Continue returning to the feeling of fulfillment. Continue letting imagination be the place where your future is born. And in time, often sooner than you expect, you will step into a life that once existed only within the quiet theater of your mind, discovering that imagination, when used with intention, is not just a technique, but a bridge between the invisible and the visible, between desire and fulfillment, between who you were and who you have chosen to become. But the surrender of letting go of effort, strain, and the desperate need to control outcomes. True creation does not come from force, it comes from allowing. When you imagine with ease, when you relax into the feeling of the wish fulfilled rather than pushing for it, you open the subconscious like soft soil ready to accept a seed. The more peacefully you imagine, the more effectively you imprint. Inner surrender means trusting that the scene you live in imagination is already moving into form, even if you see no physical evidence yet. It means knowing that imagination is the first reality and the physical world is only the shadow that follows. When you understand this, you no longer search for signs, you no longer look outward to confirm what is happening inward. The confirmation you seek begins within, in the quiet unfoldment of a state becoming natural to you. As you practice this, you will notice something astonishing. Your emotions begin to shift. The feelings of lack, fear, and longing slowly dissolve, replaced by a calm assurance, a quiet certainty, a natural sense of belonging to the reality you have created. This inner shift is the true manifestation. The physical expression is simply the final echo of it. Whenever your old state tries to pull you back, through doubt, impatience, or reminders of what is, you return gently to your imagined scene. You don't argue with reality. You don't force your mind to stop thinking negatively. You simply redirect your attention to the world you are choosing. The moment you do, you realign yourself with your chosen future. Imagination is not about escaping reality, it is about selecting a new one. It is about recognizing that you are not trapped by circumstances, history, or probabilities. You are only limited by the state you insist on occupying. And every time you enter your imagined scene, you step into a new identity, one that eventually becomes your home. The best technique to manifest with imagination depends on consistency, not intensity. A few minutes each night, entering the state of your fulfilled desire, has more creative power than hours of desperate effort. The subconscious responds to repetition, to rhythm, to inner familiarity. When your imagined reality becomes more emotionally convincing than your physical one, the outer world has no choice but to shift. Nighttime is especially powerful for this practice. As the mind drifts towards sleep, the barriers of logic soften, and the subconscious becomes more accessible. In that drowsy borderland between waking and dreaming, imagination sinks deeper. Enter your scene when your body is relaxed, your breathing slow, and your awareness gently floating. Let the imagined moment come alive as though it is the final experience of your day, the last stamp upon consciousness before you surrender to sleep. What you fall asleep in, you carry into the depths of your mind, where creation truly begins. Imagine the scene not as though you are watching yourself from the outside, but as though you are inside it, seeing through your own eyes. This perspective transforms imagination from fantasy into experience. Feel how your body would feel, how your emotions would respond, how your environment around you would change. The more first person your imagination becomes, the more naturally it integrates into your sense of self. Many people wonder if they are doing it right. But imagination is not a test. It is not about perfect visuals or flawless details. It is about emotional truth. Even if the images are faint or fuzzy, if the feeling is real, the technique is working. If the moment feels natural, even if only for a second, you have planted the seed. And once the seed is planted, your only task is to nurture it with quiet assumption. Do not dig it up to check its progress. Do not question when or how it will sprout. Let imagination handle the invisible work. Your role is to maintain the inner knowing that what you have imagined is already taking shape. Life has its own way of orchestrating events, connecting people, and aligning circumstances. You may not see the pattern until much later, but trust that it is forming exactly as it should. Imagination works in silence. There is no visible motion, no loud sign, no dramatic shift. But behind the scenes, your inner state is rearranging the threads of your outer world. Conversations change. Opportunities arise. People who were once distant become close, and those who no longer fit your new reality quietly fade. Circumstances that once felt stuck begin to loosen. The world bends subtly, then visibly, then undeniably toward the reality you have accepted within. You will notice gentle nudges, intuitive impulses, small coincidences, unexpected openings. These are the early whispers of your manifestation. Do not chase them, but acknowledge them with gratitude, for they indicate that your inner world is aligning with your outer path. When doubt appears, and it will, you do not fight it. You simply return to your chosen state. Doubt has no lasting power when you consistently inhabit the reality of your fulfilled desire. The state you dwell in most remains the dominant force in your life. Imagination is the architect, feeling is the foundation, persistence is the builder. Every great achievement, every healing, every success story, every transformation began in imagination before it appeared in form. The inventor first sees the invention with inner vision. The champion first wins in the mind before lifting a trophy. The healed person senses wellness inwardly before the body fully reflects it. The joyful heart imagines happiness long before circumstances provide it. Every manifestation is preceded by an internal acceptance. To imagine effectively, you must let go of the need to. See how it will work. The moment you attempt to calculate the path, you step out of creation and into limitation. The how belongs to life. The what belongs to you. Focus only on the end. Live in the end. Assume the end. The means will unfold naturally. If you desire love, imagine the warmth of being cherished. If you desire wealth, imagine the ease and freedom it brings. If you desire healing, imagine the vibrant aliveness within your body. If you desire success, imagine the pride and gratitude of achievement. Let the feeling of the fulfilled desire saturate your mind. And most importantly, imagine it because it feels good, not because you are trying to force an outcome. Imagination must be a place of delight, not pressure. When you enjoy the inner experience, the subconscious accepts it effortlessly. That the technique is not about escaping your present life. It is about transforming it. It is not about pretending something is true. It is about choosing the truth you want to live. Imagination is the tool that elevates you from reaction to creation, from limitation to possibility, from hoping to knowing. With practice, your imagination becomes not just a technique, but a way of being. You begin to see the world not as a fixed structure, but as a fluid mirror, constantly reflecting your inner state. You recognize that every desire is simply an invitation to step into a new version of yourself. And through imagination, you accept that invitation with grace. If the outer world contradicts your inner vision, you do not waver. The contradiction is temporary. The inner truth is permanent until you decide to change it. You hold fast to the reality you have created within, knowing that the physical world must eventually follow. Imagination is not wishful thinking, it is intentional creation. It is the quiet power that reshapes mountains, opens doors, heals wounds, restores hope, and transforms lives. It is the unseen engine behind every great miracle. And the technique, the simple act of entering your fulfilled desire in imagination and feeling it as real, is the key that unlocks all of it. Let the world around you do what it will. Let circumstances shift, rise, fall, change, and rearrange. Your task is not to control the outer world, but to remain loyal to the inner one. Your imagination is the birthplace of your destiny. The moment you learn to live there, the world you walk through can never remain the same. So let your imagination become the place where your future is born long before the world can see it. Dare to live internally as the one you choose to be, before life has any proof to offer you. What you accept in the silence of your mind becomes the loudest truth in your reality. The world will rise to meet the state you persist in because creation begins within you, not around you. Hold the scene, feel its certainty, and walk through your days knowing that the unseen is already arranging itself in your favor. When imagination becomes your truest home, life has no choice but to follow.